So
are you presenting the slides or?
Would you be able to, or do you want me to? I don't mind. My Wi-Fi is a bit slow. That's all I'll say. So it might be better if
I'll try and do it. Just give me 2 seconds.
Great, thanks, Ross. So while you're doing that, I'll just let everyone know who we've got presenting. So we've got Ross, who's come along from the Here to Help team, who's going to talk about the benefits cap. Then we've got a couple of colleagues who are joining us, I think around 20 past, who are going to talk about the neighbourhoods programme. And then we have Gaynor, who is going to talk about the Museum of the Home and their free tea Fridays. And then we have Shanali, who's going to talk about the Sustainability Day that the council is running. So I'm going to hand over to Ross if he's ready to start presenting. And yeah, if I could ask presenters to try and stick to the sort of 10 to 15 minute mark, that would be really handy, just because we want to make sure everyone's got time to speak before 5, really, which is when we'll open the floor up, as we normally do, for sort of questions and discussion. So Ross, are you good to go? Perfect. Thanks, Ross.
Okay. I'll see if I can change that into slideshow. Bear with me. Is it going to do anything? Aha, right. Okay, so I'm sorry about the delay. I'm Ross Hatfull. I'm from the Hackney Money Hub. I hope you can all hear me. Yep, fine, good. And I'm here to talk about the benefit cap. So, first thing I want to make clear is local housing allowance shortfalls are not the benefit cap. We get a lot of residents say we're affected by the benefit cap, and it's actually a local housing allowance shortfall. Local housing allowance is the maximum amount of rent that can be included in a housing benefit or universal credit calculation for private tenants. It varies depending on the area where the tenant lives and the number of bedrooms they require. Local housing allowance rates have been frozen since April 20, despite soaring rents. And as a result, there's very few properties available for rent in London at local housing allowance rates. And capital letters that try and procure properties for across London for about half the London boroughs in the capital said last week only 11 properties, mainly studios, were available to let at LHA rates in the whole of London. So for everyone on benefits, there was only 11 properties they could find that would have been affordable to them. And obviously, if you're on benefits, you're competing with professionals, with people with much more money. So it is very, very difficult. So most tenants in London now have a shortfall between their rent and benefits. And an example of how bad it's getting. The LHA rate for a 2-bed property in Hackney is £1,585 a month. According to the home site yesterday, the average market rent for Hackney for a 2-bed is now £2,900 a month. And even using the median and averages that look at lower properties, shortfalls are over £1,000. And it is really, really difficult. Where the shortfall is unaffordable, there's actually few long-term options apart from moving to cheaper areas of London or the country, often elsewhere in the country. So that's local housing allowance. The benefit cap is slightly different. Benefit cap is a limit on the total amount of benefits people can receive. For London, it's set slightly higher, £2,110 for a couple per month, £1,400 per month for singles, slightly lower outside of London. And how it works is the DWP add up the claimant partner's dependent children's income from a wide range of benefits. It's all the main living benefits, universal credit, housing benefit, job seekers, child benefit, all get added up. And if it's above the cap, if they're on legacy benefits, pre-universal credit, the housing benefit is restricted by the difference. If they're on universal credit, the universal credit is restricted by the difference. So if their income is above the cap, their universal credit is reduced. And people have been saying, we've been noticing a lot more recently, well, as people move on to universal credit, the impact gets worse because the cap will restrict their elements for both living costs as well as rent. On legacy benefits, it only restricts the rent. So there are some exemptions. If you're working and on working tax credit or on universal credit and earning over 722 a month, you're exempt. If you get the limited capability for work in your UC, you're exempt. If you care for someone with a disability, you're exempt. And then there's also a wide range of other disability benefits that exempt you, PIP, disability living allowance, attendance allowance. So your two routes for avoiding the cap are basically work or get a qualifying disability benefit. Right, so yeah, it's basically, if someone's capped, move them into employment, apply for a disability benefit like PIP, or for some residents, it's moved for cheaper accommodation. Singles, this will be out of London, the likes of Havering. For smaller families, it will be, I'm afraid, outside the south of England. There's not many options, really. So how does the cap work? This is a real example. We've got a couple, they've got 3 children, 3-bed house, and they currently pay £2,450 a month. Neither of them work, and they get child benefit. So they've got 3 children, rent is £2,450, and they're not in work. Normally, the universal credit would be, they'd get an allowance for themselves, the standard allowance, £578. They'd get a housing cost element, which for a 3-bed is £1,920, and they'd get a child element, which is now limited to 2 children. So if they were not capped, their universal credit would be £3,037 a month, and their rent would be £2,450. So already we're seeing this is not a luxurious lifestyle. Right, so we know their total income, it's universal credit, £3,037. We know they've got some child benefit on top. So their total income comes to about £3,279 a month. The benefit cap is only £2,110 a month. So their income is above the benefit cap by £1,169. So what happens is a universal credit, £3,037, is reduced by £1,169. So they are at the cap level. So they basically only receive £1,868 in universal credit, because that plus the child benefit puts them at the cap. Now, we know their rent is £2,450. If they're suddenly capped to £1,868 in universal credit, it's very simple. They don't have enough money to live on, and they don't have enough money to pay their rent. So they're going to fall into rent arrears. But what we are seeing happening increasingly is as soon as they reach 2 months rent arrears, the landlord will apply to universal credit for a managed payment to the landlord and rent arrears deductions. So the landlord applies for money for the rent and to clear the arrears. And the idea is this is to protect the tenancy. But what happens? So we know after the cap, because the universal credit covers both living and housing costs, they're only getting £1,868. The landlord can apply for the housing cost element to come direct to him, plus 20% of the standard duty allowance for rent arrears. So the landlord can apply, and if they're in more than 2 months rent arrears, it's automatic, for £1,937 to go to the landlord for rent, and £115 to go to the landlord for rent arrears. That is more than their total UC. So what happens is all the UC goes to the landlord, leaving Mr. and Mrs. A, real life case of our system, with £0 a month in universal credit to live on. So everything they get goes to the landlord, and they're basically living off their child benefit, which is £55.80 a week. It's shocking, isn't it? That's how it works. Now, as the rent is £2,450, but the landlord, although he's getting all the UC, is only getting £1,868, he still proceeds to evict. So he has started eviction process. And his view is, well, other properties in the area, 3-bed properties, are £3,000 a month. I am renting at £2,450, which I think is exceptionally cheap. I'm not going to accept just £1,868. And there's some examples just of other properties, 3-bed properties in Hackney, so we can see what the rents are. So we're left in a situation where the landlord is unhappy, the rent is being covered but not in full, and he is going to eviction. And Mr. and Mrs. A and their kids have been left destitute with no universal credit and are reliant on food banks. So what I will say, in most cases, direct payments to landlords are a good thing, as it protects the tenancy. And landlords routinely apply for direct payments to landlords from UC and rent arrears reductions when rent arrears reach 8 weeks. But if the tenant is capped, they can be left with little or no income as a result. And we've even seen social rented tenants left with 0 income because the whole UC is going to the landlord. And some social landlords will not routinely apply for deductions unless they know exactly what the situation is. Others do it by default. And sometimes they are completely unaware that the tenant is benefit capped and has been left with nothing to live on. So I'm raising this to say, well, if you know this is the case, the first thing we do is call the landlord. First thing the claimant should do is call the landlord, explain what's going on. Some landlords don't care, particularly some private ones. Others will do what they can to help. They genuinely are quite shocked that what they think they're doing is a good thing to protect the tenancy is actually leaving the tenants destitute. Right, so what can we do to help? If the residents are disabled, they're not getting a limited capability element for work in their universal credit, ensure the claimant has challenged a decision called a mandatory reconsideration. If they're disabled, ensure they're applied for personal independence payments. Claims can be made by calling them up. It's worth putting in a claim. If they get turned down, there is support, both through our team and the CAB and other things, that we can help with mandatory reconsiderations. If they do wish to move elsewhere, then they may not be capped in other areas of the country. Benefits calculator, if you put in the area, it should tell them if they're capped or not. So a couple of other things. If they were previously working, they should get 9 months protection from the cap. And I've noticed the typo there. Sometimes it's not applied, so we're always worth checking. But if they're not working, then it really is. If they want to keep their home, move into employment, their Job Centre Plus work coach can help them. Hackney Works can help them. There is support there. But that is basically the options. In the meantime, I've asked to talk about discretionary housing payments. Everyone mentions them. They can provide short-term help by temporarily covering shortfalls, allowing residents time to resolve the situation. We can only consider them if the applicant is already getting housing benefit or the housing cost element of UC. They must have a shortfall, and we can't cover shortfalls due to overpayment, recovery, benefit advances, third-party deductions, or sanctions. But awards are always short-term and always discretionary. There's no guarantee for an award. You can apply for a DHP at the Money Hub, but I am flagging now, Hackney only has 1.16 million in DHP for this year. So it is a 40% drop compared to 2 years ago, and demand is through the roof. So awards are usually short, average about 13 weeks, and we do expect residents to be taking extremely proactive steps to resolve their situation. Unfortunately, if they are capped and they're not willing to do anything, they're not willing to look for employment, not willing to claim other benefits, not willing to do anything, it's highly unlikely DHP will be awarded because the situation is unsustainable. And currently about 70% of DHP applications get rejected. Most of those are not benefit cap cases, I will add, but there is a high level of rejection just because the pressure on the budget is very high. And I'm flagging now, it's taking quite a while to make decisions and reach a caseworker. So it is a difficult situation. The impacts of the cap can be quite severe, but the real solutions, if someone is capped, get them into employment. Even minimum wage employment, will get them off the cap and can help them to sustain their accommodation. But yeah, I've tried to whiz through that because I was given 10 minutes, but hopefully it gives you an idea, and the slides will be sent around. But if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
Amazing, thanks, Ross. And yeah, well done getting through all that complex detail in such a short amount of time, and really good to have those real life examples as well, even if they are quite a tough message. But yeah, good to have that all explained. Does anyone have any questions for Ross while he's here? He's a fountain of knowledge when it comes to all these sorts of things. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please do raise your hand. If not, then Zoe, do you want to come in?
Sorry, it might not be information that we have now, but I think it'd be really interesting to understand who are people who are most likely capped in the borough, especially if we're thinking about all the wider poverty reduction work. This is such a driver of poverty, as Ross has really clearly explained. Is it single mums with a kid who aren't disabled, who can't work because of childcare costs? Or who are the people who are most likely capped? Because I think that's the starting point to then working out how we can go out and help those people who are capped understand alternatives.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that would be a really good piece of work to do. I think Lorraine has asked for your contact numbers, though. But yeah, if we don't have any other questions, I might push on just because of time. I can see I've been joined by Mark Young, who, hi Mark, are you there?
Yep, here.
Brilliant. Mark's going to talk about the Neighbourhoods programme. So yeah, do you want to take it away, Mark?
Yeah, I'm just going to share my slides.
Yeah.
1 second. So you've got those now. Yeah. Great. So I'm Mark. I work in the Central Neighbourhoods team as a project manager, and I'm going to talk to you about neighbourhoods in the city and Hackney, a bit about what neighbourhoods is, different organisations involved, and some of the structures and meetings in place as well. And in a way, so sorry if you've heard this before, but hopefully this is also something you've heard before, because we want to kind of get that message out far and wide. So City and Hackney has been split into 8 neighbourhoods, which you can see on the right of the slide there, which are named after the different kind of green spaces, different parks in City and Hackney. But neighbourhoods is very much about health, about social care, about voluntary and community services, really coming together, working together in local networks, support residents together around their health and well-being, and really focus on addressing health inequalities as well. The idea is that people should be able to receive really high quality healthcare, high quality support as soon as they need it, and be able to receive it very locally in their neighbourhood, as well as kind of all the people involved in their healthcare knowing each other, and being integrated together and talking together about the support and the healthcare that person receives. And it's also very much about ensuring that residents have a really a say around how their health services are delivered, what matters to them in their neighbourhood, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute as well. Sorry, 1 second. So there are many people or services and organisations that are engaged with neighbourhoods, and this slide shows many of the organisations or services who we're working with in neighbourhoods. So kind of working down the list, you know, got lots of kind of very key big anchor organisations: London Borough of Hackney, City of London, Elft. You can see the primary care networks as well. So the primary care networks are organised around the same areas as neighbourhoods and work very closely with and we work very closely with each of those primary care networks in neighbourhoods. And just in case you're unsure, so primary care network are the groups of GP practices organised together into a network, and they generally serve kind of communities of around 30,000 to 50,000 people, working alongside Homerton, local pharmacies as well, and then voluntary sector organisations such as HCVS, as well as kind of many local voluntary and local community organisations, smaller local voluntary and community organisations who might be based in a, say, specific neighbourhood, as well as working with the health watches both in City of London and Hackney as well. Also, just to mention the kind of community navigation providers. Community navigation is a big part of my role. So that we're working closely with community navigation providers as well, and we might have people in community navigation roles on this call. So working with social prescribers, health and wellbeing coaches, wellbeing practitioners, and kind of all the other community navigation providers as well. So moving on to this next slide. So the Fuller report, which was published last year, kind of in summer last year, which was a report on primary care integration. And this slide shows some of the kind of key recommendations, which kind of align with a lot of the work that City and Hackney are doing and have been doing around neighbourhoods, and the PCNs have been doing around working with neighbourhoods as well. So the first there is around continuity of care, and the second really around the integrated approach to urgent care. But I particularly want to highlight the third point there. So ensuring that PCNs evolve into integrated neighbourhood teams with a workforce drawn from all sectors. So PCNs drawing voluntary sector workforce and kind of more of an integrated neighbourhood team, more integrated neighbourhood teams evolve. And this really is kind of the big ambition of neighbourhoods, particularly, well, neighbourhoods nationwide, but also neighbourhoods in City and Hackney. The fourth kind of point there highlights kind of the drivers for this change as well. So very much kind of workforce for sure, digital estates, and kind of information as well, kind of to drive that development of those integrated neighbourhood teams. So the neighbourhoods programme has had 4 priorities that we've been focused on for the last. These priorities were from 2022-23 and have kind of carried into 23-24 as well. So the first one really around addressing rising need, and that's through the proactive care programme, which you may or may not have heard of, but this is working with GPs to proactively contact moderately frail residents and offer them a really personalised, holistic service and very preventative support as well, to help them to stay well for longer. And then the second priority is really around developing multidisciplinary teams, improving multidisciplinary teams on a neighbourhood level, and we'll think about the structures which support this on the next slide a little bit more. The third priority for the neighbourhoods programme is around supporting the neighbourhoods workforce. So there's really quite a big programme of organisational development and training currently happening to support workforce people kind of working on a neighbourhood level, which is kind of a good, you know, it's a large number of people who work in that kind of localised neighbourhood way. And then the fourth one there, around resident involvement in the neighbourhoods programme. So this is generally through the Neighbourhoods Forum. And again, we'll talk about this in a bit more detail on the next slide. So this slide shows the key meetings related to neighbourhoods, and we'll just kind of go through them one by one. So the neighbourhood navigation network. So these are particularly for people in community navigation roles. It says they happen every 2 months, but it's actually every quarter now. And they bring people together who are in those community navigation roles. So social prescribers, health and wellbeing coaches, wellbeing practitioners. They bring those people together into their neighbourhoods to really build relationships between those roles, between those individuals, provide a bit of peer support, kind of develop understanding of each other's roles, really share knowledge and make connections so people feel comfortable kind of outside of those meetings, having those relationships with people and making contact with them. So the second one there is the neighbourhood multidisciplinary team meetings. So these are opportunities to discuss individual residents who perhaps have quite complex needs and are being supported by multiple agencies. So these meetings are the opportunity to bring everyone together, to share knowledge, to discuss the support that resident requires, and really make a shared decision around the kind of support that resident needs to take forward to improve their lives, to improve their well-being. These meetings are chaired by, there's a chair for each neighbourhood. So there's one of these meetings in each neighbourhood, and there's a chair for each neighbourhood. The outcomes are always recorded by the chair and shared with staff afterwards. And currently we're looking at how we can facilitate residents, facilitate family members, carers being invited to these meetings as well, to be more part of those discussions. And then the third meeting is the neighbourhood forums. So the neighbourhood forums really bring, again, happening in each neighbourhood. Oh, sorry, I should have said about the MDMs. So the MDMs happen monthly, but the neighbourhood forums happen again in each neighbourhood. These happen quarterly, maybe a mix of lots of face-to-face, but generally hybrid as well. So the opportunity to join online as well. And these bring together people working in health, working in social care, working in voluntary sector within that neighbourhood, alongside lots of smaller voluntary sector organisations, but lots of residents as well. So these are the kind of meetings where all those different people come together, really focusing on what matters to them locally, how health services should be delivered, and again, kind of there's a lot of benefits there around relationship forming as well. And they're meant to be kind of very friendly spaces where everyone can come along, everyone can feel comfortable making a contribution. And the idea is that they have a real kind of impact and real decision making behind them as well, so that the forums can be used to make real decisions about how healthcare is delivered in that specific neighbourhood. And then the final meeting on this slide is the neighbourhood staff meetings. So these, out of all of these, this is kind of the most recent kind of meeting or structure to emerge. And this is an opportunity for staff to come together. So staff that are working on a particular neighbourhood footprint. So for example, Wells Street Common staff that are working in Wells Street Common, the opportunity for them to come together. So this is staff from health and care, kind of voluntary sector, lots of voluntary sector workers, social care, lots of smaller community organisations as well. So bringing all those people together as a kind of networking opportunity. Again, lots around building relationships, building contacts, learning more about how each other's roles and each other's services and the work that each other's doing. And this is generally, well, has always been done over lunch. So there's always a lunch provided when people come along. And these have been happening. We've had 2 so far. The first one was in Wells Street Common. I forget where the second one was. But we have the next staff meeting, which is going to be in Shoreditch Park in the city, and that's happening on the Thursday, the 20th of July, 12 to 1:30. So if there's anyone here from Shoreditch Park in the city who'd like to come along, get in contact, and we can provide you with all the details. But the plan is these are being gradually rolled out across the 8 neighbourhoods, and there's going to be a bit of a break in August, but then in September to December, we'll be kind of rolling out the remaining dates for the neighbourhood staff meetings for the remaining neighbourhoods. And as it kind of says there, these are twice a year in each of the neighbourhoods, and these are for anyone who's working in that neighbourhood to come along and attend. And then my final slide is just kind of the reverse of that slide. So it gives you information on this slide about who to contact to find out a bit more. So this is probably not information to take in now because there's quite a lot of email addresses and things like that. But these can be sent around after this meeting, and then you can look up who to contact if you want to attend one of those meetings. But yes, that's everything I have. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Mark. My question was going to be, how do people get involved if they want to get involved? But you've got that all on your last slide, so that's really useful. And I'll send them out with the newsletter if that would be helpful for people who haven't come along today. But has anyone else got any questions for Mark about any of that work? I don't know if Charlie, if you were able to come in and talk about the one that you attended, perhaps that would be wetlands, unless anyone else has got any questions.
Yeah, no worries. I went to the second one, Woodbury Wetlands, and it was really good. I connected with some colleagues from a local community mental health team, from a local carers charity, and from a community pharmacy team. That was just people sitting on my table, but I know there were colleagues from different voluntary sector organisations, from different GP practices in the area. Kind of had a chat about the different issues going on in the neighbourhood. Also, the food is really good. It's like a great vegan sandwich with some other stuff as well. And it's just a really nice opportunity to kind of reflect on the work together and the challenges residents face. So I think it's excellent and worth the time if anyone does have the time to go.
Thanks, Charlie. And yeah, just to echo that, the feedback you kind of get from the room is like, oh, I've emailed you, I've never met you, and kind of that putting a face to a name and having that kind of little chat just makes such a big difference. So yeah, if we'll be definitely kind of publicising all the neighbourhood staff meetings, and I mean neighbourhood forums are regularly publicised as well. So yeah, it'd be great if people could come along to them.
Brilliant. Nicola's got a comment in the chat saying you can sometimes join the meetings virtually, and is that possible, Mark, or are they always in person?
I would say the majority of people come in person, so they are mostly set up for in person. But if people haven't got the time, obviously it does take time to travel places and there and back sort of thing. There is the facility to join and listen in, but there's less of the relationship forming happens because there's lots of people in a room and they're not going to necessarily come and talk to the people who are online, but you'd meet the people who is online. So we very much encourage people to come along face to face, but there is the facility for people to join online as well. Great.
Yeah, I think hybrid meetings are perhaps a challenge we'll never resolve, but unless anyone's got any other questions, I think we'll Charlie, do you want to come in?
Just to say as well, I also been to lots of the forums, and they're also really great to attend, and you do get a kind of diverse opinions from residents and from other frontline sector workers. So I mean, it's worth checking on the neighbourhood's website if you do find yourself free at the period they're on. It's just a great way to kind of get out there and see what's going on in your local area.
Great, cheers, Charlie. Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Mark. Thanks so much for coming along. And yeah, I'll send out the slides for everyone who wants them with the newsletter, so you'll get them as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Mark. We are going to move on to our next presenter, which is Gaynor, who's come along from Museum of the Home. She's going to talk about their free tea Fridays. So do you want to come in now, Gaynor?
Yes, let me just try and share my presentation. Let's see. So do I go to share your entire screen? No, that's not where I want to go.
Yeah, you can do that, and then obviously just move on to the tab where you've got the slides open.
Okay, sorry. Let's see how to do that. It's not working. Sorry, my bad.
Did you send me the slides? I might be able to get them.
I
up.
did send it to you.
Let me just see if I can open them and then.
'Cause when I'm sharing your screen, what's coming up is our talk rather than the presentation.
Okay, I think if the little box pops up and if you click the screen and then click share, I think it should work. But in the meantime, I'll just look for your slides and maybe I can just share them instead.
Okay, I think I got it. There we go. Can you see it, everyone? Is it showing?
Yeah, we can see them. Perfect.
All right, fantastic. So I'm just going to share a little bit about what Freaky Fridays is, but before, I think some of you are not familiar with myself. So my name is Gaina and I'm the Creative Programming Officer at the Museum of the Home. My role is mainly in public programming, so delivering events for adults, which are linked to our created exhibition. So this links our workshop talks and
Sorry,
everything.
Gaina. Sorry, Gaina. Sorry to interrupt. I think would you be able to make them a bit larger if you go to sort of show? Oh, you've come out of it now.
Can I?
If you could go back into sharing your slides and then if you sort of enter slideshow, I think they'll be a bit bigger because I think some of the text was a bit small.
Okay.
Sorry, if you go just share your screen again like you did last time.
Okay, sorry guys.
It's all right.
Center and window. There we go. So is that working?
Yeah, and then if you go to slideshow at the top.
That's what I clicked. I don't know why it's not showing.
Okay. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay. Do you have it?
Yeah, we can see. Yeah, you're on the how it began slide.
Okay. So a little bit. Oh God, this is so annoying. Sorry, guys. I think I'll probably just talk because it's not allowing me to.
Okay. Yeah, I can circulate the slides anyway after the meeting, so don't worry.
Okay. Sorry. So the Freaky Friday is a session that we run every Friday from the museum from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. It was started in 2020 as a project that was run by two artists. Their name is Yara and Davina, and they would cycle around the Arden estate, getting information from the Hackney residents, who were asking them to taste the sort of different tea blends that they had. And then from that, the residents voted a selection of teas that they wanted. And from there were 3 blends that were selected. So on Fridays, we share these blends, and it's an opportunity for us to sort of have an open space. It's community-based, so it's open to all our neighborhoods for people to come and join us. But the main reason behind that is it runs parallel to one of our programs called Campaign for Change, which I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with, but this is a project that began in 2020. The museum that's raising awareness of issues that are difficult within our area. So in 2020, our theme was looking at homelessness as the main theme, and was particularly looking at women homelessness. So alongside that, our public programming did events that were highlighting issues that were connected to challenges that women faced through homelessness. And so for now, our Campaign for Change is moving. It ran for 2 years, and in 2023, we're embarking on our next campaign, which is going to run for 5 years. And that campaign is looking at food and food equality. So within the museum, we actually run the food bank as well. So they come on Mondays and we run that. So parallel to the food bank, we run the Freaky Fridays, where we offer tea and coffee. And alongside that, we have activities and family activities that are connected to our curated exhibitions. So the idea behind that is to be a safe space and to open the museum as something that's not, I mean, many communities don't feel comfortable to come into the museum space. So the opportunity was on Freaky Fridays to let people know that they can come into the space. Usually food banks are quite grim and they just come and go. So the idea of hosting that in the museum is that people can actually stay, do family activities. So working with different artists who do family activities such as workshops. So the next upcoming major program that we're doing is going to be called How to Make a Paper Boat. So that is working with an intergenerational family, or a grandmother and her 2 daughters, showing people how to do creative activities around that. So the element behind that is, as well as we're providing food, we're also sort of providing that space that people would want to come and join. So why we call it Free Tea Fridays is because, like I said, it actually began by 2 artists, Yara and Davina, who are going around the Yarden estate. And then from that session, we selected 3 teas that we host and we sell in our museum shop, but the money that we get from the sales of the shop is what provides the Free Tea Fridays activities that we run. So that's sort of like a quick sort of summary of the presentation that I had. And why we do it, our objective is to really be a place for community, to open conversation, and to kind of compact isolation. So the main target that we realize is some of the elderly people in Hackney don't feel that they have a space to come and enjoy. And our museum people don't really know that they've got so many different things that within the building, the things that we have. So that's kind of showing that and opening up for people to share their ideas or things that they maybe want to get involved in with our programs. So that's sort of like a quick rundown. And hopefully, John, you can share the presentation. There is a link that has the website to tell you the story of how it developed, and also a mailing list where we're sort of sharing and being open so people know what our different programs are delivered across that.
Great, thanks, Gaynor.
No worries. Sorry that the presentation didn't work.
No worries. I'll be sure to circulate the slides in the newsletter so everyone will get them there, and they'll have the website and the details of what it's on and all of that stuff. So it's all good. I was going to ask, do you get quite a mixed profile of people coming along?
Yes,
mainly elderly people, or is it quite a mix?
Yes, we do. It's very open. It's open to all ages, but
Yeah.
it varies. So some days we have parents with their children from as young as babies to parents' activities, especially during the holidays. It's been quite popular. So some sessions we're hosting baking within our kitchen, but because it became overpopulated, we have had to really rethink some of the activities that we do. So it varies. And sometimes we've had people who are just traveling from overseas and they didn't even know that we're hosting this. So it's been a really kind of interesting hub, but realizing that our target audience as well is local Hackney residents and people who are sort of struggling to have a space where they can entertain the children and also to access food.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone else have any questions for Gaynor? Or we've got Gaynor here. No. Oh, Jenny, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Gaynor, it sounds like a really fantastic project and such a fantastic resource for Hackney residents. I really thank you so much for coming today to talk about it. I was just interested to know if there were any emerging needs that your colleagues and yourself have identified in conversations with residents that you're finding really hard to access or to signpost or to support people with, knowing that those who that have a need for food and connectivity in that way, often there's other things going on, and whether there's anything anything that this group can kind of helpfully add to, or just to share in terms of insight for us to be aware of.
For sure. I think the thing is, many people don't know that we actually host this. So I'm taking over my colleague. Her name was Aywan Kofiati, who I'm sure some of you know. So she was the community's lead. So she was able to reach out to some of these communities. Whereas with my role, I am trying. So this is the first session. I'll be joining other projects and going around to share the activities that we do. But yeah, in terms of getting people to come to know what we are doing, it hasn't been easy, unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh, well, hopefully our newsletter can help a little bit with that. We've got quite a wide circulation, so it's always good to know when there are places where people can go. We know how difficult lots of the projects, lots of the people on this call have working in organisations where capacity is a real issue. So where there's a resource, it's really useful to know. And I don't know whether your organisation is a member of our food network, or whether, if not, Charlie or Nicola can follow up with you and invite you along to that, because we do have a very active network of food projects and providers across Hackney who work collaboratively to together to think about how we can work in partnership to address the needs and challenges. And I know many of them are up to capacity and really interested in where they can support people to access other support, either closer to home or wider supports. I was just interested, are there a particular, do you have people who are having conversations with residents and sort of outreach, around other things? Do people talk about?
That was my colleague's role. So we're sort of hoping to have someone else who comes to do that role. So at the moment, like I just said, my role is a creative program, but I've been sort of slowly taking over this project. And alongside that, I'm working on a program where I would be creating a timetable. So once I have that timetable, I'll share with you so you know the actual activities that are going on and the things that we're sharing. But I think in terms of connecting with our food campaign, I'll definitely love to sort of speak to you more further, because the food campaign is something that branches even more widely within the museum generally. So even within our exhibitions and some of the public programming, and the idea is to obviously raise funding that will sort of support the projects that we run. So last year, our partnership for the women, homeless women, was the London Homeless Collective, and this year is the Hackney Food Bank. But we're thinking in terms of how that partnership works and looking more in terms of what do they need and what the museum can provide for them and the facilities with that. And through the brief conversations that I've had with them, it was also actually how Free Tea Fridays can be open for some of the users to come and enjoy, and also to just remove the stigma around accessing food, and to actually kind of, so it's something that's quite common, which is the main aim or ethos behind our campaign for food, to kind of show food equality and the challenges now with the cost of living, how it's difficult for people to access food, and how challenging there is that stigma, but just let people know it's common and we're here to support you and how you need that support. But I think in many ways, the museum is still sort of, because we just launched it in April, and our summer party on the 1st of July is going to be the launch of the food campaign. And that's going to run for 5 years. So the different ways of like how we're thinking through how we do that. So it's a project that we're sort of thinking as we go forward. So any connections or things that you think may benefit us, please do reach out.
Great. Well, that's a chance, everyone on the call, to meet in person if you if you're available on the 1st of July. It sounds like a really fantastic event to get down to and to connect in. And I know that so many of our services are recognizing the importance of outreach into places and spaces where residents are reaching out for food support. And I know many, we've had many on the call, but also Mark, who presented, the community navigators, the social prescribers, Volunteer Centre Hackney have some really fantastic projects. And we've got Joe on the call there. I don't know if you want to come in, Joe, and sort of add anything there, because it sounds like a great opportunity to connect in as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. As Jenny said, I manage the community health, public health community champions programme at Volunteer Centre Hackney, and many of our champions have real challenges when it comes to addressing stigma that people have around accessing support. And we're really trying so hard to support champions to support residents with this issue. Many of them have done MEC, Making Every Conversation Count training, and we sometimes use simulations to help them to structure the conversation. But I just wondered if any of you had any resources or anything that we can use in a peer support session that we're going to run next week. Any data, any resources, anything that we can use to help them to tackle this issue of stigma, or is it just something that you kind of cover across? I know you said you kind of reassure them, you say you're there for them, and you that it's common, so you acknowledge that it's a universal issue. The stigma is a universal issue. But is there any resources that any of you can share around this?
Not yet. So it's something we're really thinking through. How do we engage that with our food banks? So it's a newly relationship we have with them, and also they're sort of finding how they access the museum. So it hasn't been something that we've discussed, but being just aware. So I guess in terms of some of the things that I was going to share in the presentation was just offering that space that is warm, and just the care that we give them when they're in the space, and asking them how their day was, and just that little bit. I don't know, there's something about making a cup of tea for someone just that process kind of makes someone feels very comfortable, and and then you start talking about the day-to-day, how the day was. So it's kind of like just really breaking down those barriers. So I've also been, even though the food bank sessions are self-directed, I don't need to be in the space, but sometimes I go and introduce myself and have that session where I'm playing with the kids and doing that. So by just being there, it creates a different way they feel comfortable, and the stigma is broken down in that element. But I think it will be interesting to kind of create a step-by-step where we think about how do we actually activate these things, or how do we do this action in process. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, London Borough of Hackney delivered a great core conversation skills training, which was sort of linked up with MEC as well the other week. And it's all about taking the time and space, which is what you've described, to get to know people and develop the trust, etc., and how important that is, and develop the right environment and space to enable that to happen as well.
I think I didn't say that during the sessions we actually play music as well. So there's been an element of that music, and people sometimes even ask them to put their playlist, what song do they want to play, so it makes them feel like they're kind of at home as well. And I think being at the Museum of the Home, we want to give that feeling, and that's kind of like how we're connecting with all our other programs. So that's how we're kind of going towards it. But it's one of those things that I think as we go, that's when we'll probably know by programming and producing all these other activities.
And one thing I was going to say, Joe, is I know we talked about this, the issue of stigma and shame the last time we met, didn't we? And I know it's something that we're really consciously aware of. We've got Martin from the comms team who's looking at how we kind of make sure that our cost of living booklet is really as accessible and as as supportive as possible in terms of reducing the stigma of accessing support. But we have such a wealth of experience in this space and throughout our kind of network of community partners and food partners. So I do wonder whether there is a piece of work that we could do to draw together some of that experience, Joe, both for the Community Champions programme, but also for this group to be sharing sort of the kind of learning and best practice. We've heard some great examples from Gaynor, but we've also heard from some of our partners in recent sessions about things that really worked. And there was a meeting this week around social connections with some of our partners who had held warm hubs, and so we've got some great insight from some of them. So maybe what we'll try to do, I can see Charlie nodding. We've got Charlie and Nicola who work really closely with community partners and are already kind of have quite a lot of that insight. So maybe we'll get in touch with you, Joe. I know we're in email contact anyway, and see whether a small group and Gaynor, it sounds like you might well be interested. And I know we have Joycelyn on the call who's got lots of really rich insight into what works really well here also, and many others besides. So maybe we will put a call out for anyone who's interested in being part of a small group to kind of bring together some of that insight that we can then share, because it feels like a really I don't think there's any easy answer, Joe, and actually the local knowledge and expertise and sharing that is probably the most helpful thing to kind of share with community champions, and to sort of share that local understanding of what works for Hackney residents. So maybe that's something we can take forward.
That sounds like a great idea, Jenny. And we can also use the peer support session next week with champions to gather insights as well.
Yes, fantastic. So if you can do that, we'll then get in touch with us again, and then we'll take that forward. Sorry, I've cut into the time of the next
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe, and thanks, Gaynor. We have one more presenter, and I'm so sorry for cutting into their time. I know that they were supposed to have had their time before 5, but I hope they can forgive me for that, because it was quite important to make that connection. But over back to you, John. Sorry.
That's all right. Cheers, Jenny. We've got Shonali here who's going to talk about the Sustainability Day event which the council was running. So Shonali, do you want to come in? Thanks for being so patient and waiting your turn. So thank you, and please take it away. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, great. Sorry, I was just saying, thanks, Dan. I'm just sharing my screen, so give me 1 minute. Okay, can you see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Great. All right, I'll try to keep it quite short. But hi, everyone. I'm Shonali Kalawana, and I'm a recycling officer in the sustainability team. So myself and my colleague, Manuela Romero, that some of you may have worked with already, are co-organizing the Sustainability Day this year. So the first Sustainability Day event was last year in October, and it was a success. So we're really happy to be able to host it again this year and want to make it an annual event going forwards. So Sustainability Day this year is actually in 3 days' time. So it's on Sunday, the 2nd of July, from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. It's located in Hackney Town Hall Square, Reading Lane, and Hackney Service Centre, and it's free and open to everybody. Our main target audience is Hackney residents, so from street level properties and estates, so people from across the borough, but it is open to anyone that's also interested in learning about sustainable initiatives and ways to save money as well. So this event essentially encourages people to learn about repairing, reducing, and reuse initiatives, not only to help them reduce emissions and carbon and their carbon footprint, but also to really understand that it's quite an effective way to save money as well. So Hackney Council, in partnership with about 30 different organisations, we'll be providing really useful advice and information to attendees of the day. We'll be providing also free and discounted services and goods on the day that I'll go through in a bit more detail on the other slides. And yeah, it's a great day for families, for literally anybody. So we've also got kids activities as well. So we are really trying to encourage as many residents to attend as possible. So I'm just going to go through a few of the photos from last year's event so you get a flavour for what kind of stalls we have on the day. We do have presence from, I think, 8 Hackney teams from within the Sustainability and Environment team that will be providing advice on sustainable living, how to prevent waste, effective recycling techniques. The Land, Water and Air team will be we'll be talking to residents about air quality. We're having some representation from the energy teams talking about practical tips on how to save energy in households. The adult learning team will also be providing information on green courses and training that's available and having sign-up sheets for people to sign up to courses over the next few months. And the sustainable transport team will also be talking about some of the initiatives that they'll be doing as well. As I mentioned, we're also partnering with over 30 external organisations, mainly based in Hackney, but some are also based wider than that in London as well, all with initiatives around sustainability, environment, food poverty, and yeah, just trying to promote that kind of well-being. So here we've got an example from Library of Things, who were there last year, and they'll be attending this year as well. They'll be providing information on how to rent affordable household goods and items to prevent residents from having to pay large upfront costs to buy an item brand new. So it's a really great kind of lending model that they'll be spreading awareness about on the day. We'll also be having presence from Sustainable Hackney and Fair Trade. Both of these organisations will be providing information on local green campaigns and some of the activities that they're doing in the borough. Fair Trade will also be showcasing some of their items for sale and I think providing discounted rates as well. We'll also be partnering with the Reclaimery. They'll be hosting some visible mending workshops throughout the day for residents, showing residents on how to get really creative when mending textiles and when any clothes need repairing, essentially, like how to elongate their life rather than disposing of them and buying some new clothes in replacement. We're also partnering with Dr. Bike, who will be providing free bike repair service and servicing as well on the day. So attendees and residents can just bring their bike along, wait in the queue and get their bikes repaired or serviced for free. They'll also be have the opportunity to sign up to workshops that are upcoming over the next few months as well. So just a way to kind of introduce them to the service, but also make sure that they keep coming to some of the sessions just to keep repairing items if they need to. We're having a series of make your own workshops as well. So on the left, you've got make your own cushion workshop from Scrap Textiles. That's going to be hosted by Yodimo and Ella Doran. And on the right, we've got Plastic Free Hackney, who will be hosting a series of workshops throughout the day relating to creating your own cleaning and beauty products. Lonehood will also be present, and they'll be, I think, hosting a clothes swap stall. So this will require pre-registration, and residents can bring old clothes and then swap them for new ones. And Trade will be hosting free clothes mending services as well. So again, residents can bring any clothes that they need to get mended on the day, but can also pick up really valuable skills about around sewing and repairing of clothes. Hackney Fixers will be doing a similar thing, but with electrical goods. So they'll be providing electrical repair and advice, and also helping people to upskill in terms of electrical repairs that they can also do at home. We also have some activities for kids, as I mentioned earlier. So we'll be having free face painting for children, and EcoActive will also be present and hosting several kids activities to get them really excited about sustainable initiatives. And Oxfam will also be present. So they'll be hosting a secondhand workshop, bringing along some of their pre-loved clothes from some of their outlets, and encouraging the secondhand market. We're also having presence from the Forest Recycling Programme, who will be bringing along some second-hand and reclaimed paint, which can be bought for at a discounted rate. They'll be providing information to residents about where they can buy discounted paint from, and also bringing some samples on the day that can be taken away for a small discount, for a small donation. We've also got Top Up Truck joining us on the day. So they're a mobile refill store, and they'll be selling some of their unpackaged goods also at discounted rates on the day. We've also got Napoli Ever After and Real Nappies for London attending, who will be providing information about reusable nappies and also supporting residents to sign up for their £70 voucher to help them get started with reusable nappies if that's something that they're interested in. And we're also having the Felix Project in growing communities, who will be providing information about food waste prevention, so giving practical tips on how to make fresh food last longer. They'll also be bringing along some surplus food for as giveaways for donation, and also explaining to residents where they can get surplus food from for a discounted rate, and also be providing some recipes and information about plant-based food, not only to help people reduce their carbon emissions, but also potentially to save money as well. And lastly, we'll also be providing free hot drinks for anyone that brings their own cup or mug to the event. So we'll be providing free tea and coffee. For those that don't bring their own cup or mug, we are partnering with Reuser, who will be providing reusable cups for rental, I think for £4 deposit. So you can pay £4 deposit, use the cup, and when you return it, you get your £4 back. So we are implementing a no disposable cup policy at this event. So really only encouraging reusable cups to be used. We'll also be having West African and Caribbean vegan food subsidized as well for sale on the day. So essentially, we're really trying to create a buzz around sustainability initiatives, get people excited about sustainability, but also really get them to understand that it can help them to save money by providing valuable energy saving advice, learning about different sustainable living practices, learning how and where to get discounted secondhand items from in the borough, getting some of their items repaired for free, but also knowing where they can sign up for future sessions as well, and also gaining really valuable skills around repairing and knowledge through workshops and demonstrations on the day. So yeah, it's going to be a really good event. I think we're expecting to have about 1,000 people throughout the day, so it's going to be quite a large event. And yeah, please help to spread the word amongst your networks. And if you're also free, please feel free to pop along as well. If you'd like any more information, you can email myself or my colleague Manuela. We'll be happy to give you more information. And if it's something you'd be interested in participating in next year, you can also drop us an email as well. Great, thank you.
Amazing, thanks, Charlie. That looks like it took a lot of planning, but also looks like a really good event. Better than Broadway Market, I suggest. So yeah, thanks for coming along. That's really good. Has anyone got any questions for Shonali about any of the things they can get involved in or anything on the day? No. Okay. Oh, Gaynor, if you want to come in. You're on mute, Gaynor.
I was actually going to say sustainability is one of the things that we also kind of champion at the museum. So one of the things that we're doing is thinking about our recycling, our exhibition material and things like that. So if you can forward your email, I think I'd like to connect you with our sustainability crew, and they can kind of possibly connect on projects or any ideas that we work together.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think it would be a really good initiative for you to also potentially participate in next year's event as well, because I think there's a lot of overlap between the two. Yeah,
sure, definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I wonder whether you've got your event on the 1st, haven't you, Gaynor? So maybe there's a way of letting people know about the event that Shonali, the sustainability event. I don't know if there's posters or anything. That's great. Yeah,
there are some posters actually. So Gaynor, I'll send you an email and we can maybe have a catch up tomorrow, and I can drop some posters on Friday. Oh yeah, tomorrow if you're around.
And Joycelyn in the chat, who is on the name of College Office, is asking whether you have any leaflets. Is it possible for anyone to pick up any leaflets or posters from anywhere, or are they going to be distributed in certain parts of the borough? Because it would be great to publicise widely.
Yeah, that would be great. And we've got some large A3 posters that we've actually put up around the borough. We're not printing leaflets this time just because we want to save paper. So a lot of the comms have been done through social media. But I can perhaps send some of the social media links around if you want to circulate in your networks. That would be great. Otherwise, I have got a few A3 posters spare if anyone would like them. I can drop them by the HSC tomorrow.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. We'll put the slide deck and the links in the newsletter anyway. If you can send the social media links, we can include those in the newsletter. Charlie.
Just briefly on leaflets. Sorry, it's a slightly tangential point. I'm working with some colleagues in housing, particularly in the South Hackney Wick area of the borough. If you've got something you'd like to promote over summer in Hackney Estates inside our leaflets, if you email me directly, I can present the housing office. The housing office is going out once to update quarterly, and they're willing to put some more information up in the boards. So if there is something you'd like to promote in that area, let me know, and I can put that out. Housing to put out for you.
Great, thanks, Charlie. And Martin's explained how they've been promoting it on social media and newsletters as well. Anyone else got any questions or points to raise around Sustainability Day? No? Okay, well, thanks so much for coming along, Charlie. Really appreciate it. And I'm going to hand back to Jenny to open up the floor for any other discussion points people want to raise.
Thanks, John. It was a really great agenda today. Thanks so much for all the speakers and two really fantastic sounding events. So is there anyone on the call that would like to raise anything, ask anything, share anything, reflect on anything that they've heard today? We have 15 minutes. So please do fire away if there's anything that you'd like to share or ask. Lorraine.
Hi everyone. Sorry if I keep on going on about this. So I do have a few clients that are in need of furniture, and I remember in the last meeting there was a few organizations I didn't get emails for, and just wondering if anyone can link me up with them. So I think BHF was one, Fair for You. I think the Free Cycle, I've got the Free Cycle, and I've got Zoe.
I think Zoe was sharing quite a number of last time.
It was really helpful.
I'm sure
I've got a contact with Fair for You, I think. Let me just see if I can dig that out. Not sure about the other ones. I don't know if you know any, Charlie or Jenny.
The British Heart Foundation, I think, is BHF, isn't it? Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah. There's a few that's around. I've looked into them. Yeah, thank you.
And there were the baby ones, weren't there? Yeah, sorry, Charlie.
In the last session, Zoe posted a kind of comment with a few ones that they use in Money Hub, and I can send those to you to have a look at as well. There was also an organisation that kind of spoke about that, but they have some furniture. We may be able to put you in touch with them to have a conversation, but their capacity is limited, but they might be able to help you out as well.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I'm going to stop now.
Oh, thanks. Right. No, you feel free if there's other things. That's what this space is for. To do, please share it. There's a lot of knowledge in this space. I was going to give another plug for the questionnaire. I'm going to put it again in the chat, and actually somebody, I don't know whether it was you, Lorraine, but somebody did ask because in the questionnaire we are asking who would you like to hear from, what would you like presentations on in this session, so we will be referring to that as we shape these sessions moving forward. So it's really great to get your feedback on it, but also we are asking if you'd be prepared to present at a future session, and we've had a number of people who have kindly said yes to that, which is fantastic. Is there anyone else who has anything they want to raise, share, reflect on, ask, problem solve together? any residents that you are particularly worried about currently that you would like to kind of let us know about. I do have another question for you if there isn't anything kind of pressing, in case anyone feels able to share anything. We're in the process. I mean, it doesn't feel we're right in the middle of summer right now, but we are already beginning as a council to think about winter planning, how we support our most vulnerable residents throughout the winter months, knowing the additional costs and pressures of heating in the winter months. And we'd really love for our partners and colleagues and all those on the call to share with us any ideas based on what was, based on how difficult last year was in terms of supporting residents, anything that you think that we can and should be thinking about in relation to support for residents that builds on what we did last winter and what more we could be doing. I know that there's a lot of insight in this room, but if anyone did want to share anything, that's certainly something that is already on our radar, and we're thinking with public health, who have a lead on health protection. Obviously, each of our services are also we'll also be thinking about plans for winter as things come up. But we know things are still incredibly difficult for residents, and we have the summer holiday coming up, which is going to put immense pressure on families in terms of feeding children and activities for children. So I know that we do have. I'm pretty sure that in one of our next sessions we do have some information about that. But we are already thinking ahead to how we September will come around quite quickly. It can get quite cold quite early on sometimes. So if you do have ideas and you'd like to share them, we'd be really interested in hearing them, and maybe that's something that we can return to in a future session here and have a bit of a brainstorm about together, because we know many of you have been providing such incredible critical support to residents throughout the winter. And we heard this week from some of our colleagues who stood up warm hubs over the winter months, and we know that funding hasn't been continued. It was only a time limited piece of funding, but we've been doing quite a lot of work with our partners to kind of share the learning. Charlie and Nicola and Joycelyn and some others maybe on the call have been involved in really kind of reflecting on what did we learn about that. And we know that those organisations that did provide open spaces, warm hubs, are still providing them, even though it's not so cold now, and that they are really vital resources for vulnerable residents who want to connect with others, and that there's that actually the partners that are running those spaces are doing a lot more than providing the space and activities, that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes of advocating for residents and getting on the phone to the council and health and doing a form filling and all of that work, which we know is so important. I can see Charles nodding there and Joycelyn there, because it's been really critical, isn't it? So we are taking all of that, Joycelyn. We've heard it, and we continue. We heard from Marie at the Pedro Club and from Nina at Hackney Showrooms in a really great session with public health colleagues and others this week, which really brought home everything that you were also saying. I think there was a real universal experience. Yeah, did you want to add to that, Joycelyn?
No, really. I just nodded my head that how difficult it is and how people are struggling to cope with the cost of living. I had somebody with me last month, and he want to apply for bus pass because he's over 60 and he's not qualified for benefits. And then I have to apply for travel card for him, and asking him for £20 to pay for the travel card. He don't have it. He was calling friends around. At the end, I have to pay for him. So it's very difficult. At the moment, I'm thinking that after holiday club, which in August, after school holidays and all that, I'm thinking how the family is going to cope with the children at home. So I'm thinking in my mind how at least when we finish our Easter summer program, if I can support the parents with some food packs that they can, even if it's 2 days or 3 days. So yeah, it's very good thoughts that you have there. So I don't know how anybody have some thought towards that.
Yeah, so you're thinking about summer, you're thinking about how families are going to manage through the summer, but then there's also
when the children are home, yeah, because you keep coming to your kitchen and bringing friends and all that. So yeah, family may need really support.
It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? And I know we heard from about the holiday activity program and the hot meals that are available as part of that, didn't we, in one of the previous sessions? And I know that that's in the newsletter, but I think yeah, anything anyone knows about that might help take the pressure off families over the summer, please let us know so we can include it in the newsletter. And similarly, ideas for winter supports as well, any top tips of things, because we know things come up, and I mean, even we know about schemes that a supermarket will introduce, or that there'll be local campaigns and things like that. So if you do hear of anything, let us know and we'll include it in the newsletter, because it is reaching out quite widely. Yeah, does anyone have anything they want to share in relation to summer support for families that about, things that people might not be aware of yet?
Yeah, because I'll finish 18th of August. So anything after that, I'll be very happy to share with the parents how they can get that support.
Okay, well, we'll put a bit of an ask in the newsletter as well, to get in touch with us if there's anything else that people know about in terms of support for families. And I think that's something with the cost of living booklet as well that we're looking at, whether we have a kind of specific focus on a sort of section that might focus on families, and thinking about what the children's centres offer as well. There was a suggestion in the questionnaire, an idea that someone had about something they'd like to see in this session was they'd like to end with a good news story at the end of each of these sessions, which I think is a really nice idea given how difficult things are. So I'll first ask if anyone has a good news story that they would like to share, where collaboration or the work that you're doing has had a real impact with somebody that you've been working with, or a piece of work. So that's open to absolutely anybody on the call. Please do. Charlie, we've probably got time for a few if we got Joycelyn.
My good news story was I went down with a colleague from housing to a local food bank. Housing had been running a session less than 5 minutes away at the same time as the food bank, but they didn't know about each other. So just linked them up, and we announced to everyone in the queue, you want to speak about housing issues, you can go to this event. So now they're aware of each other. Housing office is going to come back. I'm hoping to do that for more spaces. Obviously, I know we've talked about this too. So yeah, ball rolling on a few things that I've been working on for a while. So it was a good story.
Fantastic. That's brilliant to hear. Thanks, Charlie. Joycelyn.
Yeah, I have this family with me that they were evicted one day. She has 2 children. And so they came, and it's like they are not leaving. They stay with me until 8 o'clock at the center. So finally, they got them a place for overnight. And then last 2 weeks, he told me that they have given her temporary accommodation. So I was happy.
That's that's fantastic. And that was as a result of all your advocacy and hard work. That must be such a relief for you, and what a life changer for the family. Great to hear. Thank you. Does anyone else have in the last 3 minutes, we could probably squeeze in a couple more? Any other good news stories? Doesn't matter how small. Sometimes even small things have huge impacts. Even those cups of tea that Gaynor was talking about are, I think we heard from one of our colleagues in the talking about the warm hubs about love bombing through cups of tea and food. People are really struggling. I thought it was a lovely way of thinking about it. But is any other good news stories to share? That's all right. Do keep those responses to the questionnaire come in, please. We really appreciate it. And thank you all so much. And thanks so much to all the presenters. And thanks, John, for curating such a great session. And thank you all for all the incredible work you do to support Hackney residents. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate you coming back and your openness to collaborating and working together to support Hackney residents, and wish you a fantastic couple of weeks, and we'll see you next time. Yes, the form I will resend. We'll resend it out in an email to everyone as well. We're going to keep. Oh no, yeah, there it is. So please do complete the form and share the form and share the newsletter and let everyone know. Thank you again so much. I love the claps.
Thanks, everyone.
Sure. Thank you. Oh, Janice, I can stick around if you wanted to ask something. Oh, was that an accidental hand? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, Gaynor. That was great.